Assalamualaikum. This is Saadat Nisar with the course E Commerce, and this is our 6th lecture. I feel it appropriate that at this point, at least, I should tell you what would be our grading criteria in this course. Your final exam would be worth 50%. Your midterm exam would be worth 25%. Then there are 2 assignments. One is homepage assignment that would be worth 10%. Then there would be a research assignment worth 10%. And then there are 2 quizzes, one before the midterm and one after the midterm. Both are worth 2.5% each. So this is how this course is going to be graded. Now we'll continue with our topic web designing, and in today's lecture we shall see as to how we can provide different colors, different background textures to our websites. Besides, we shall see how we create tables, and if time permits, we'll also examine the syntax for creating web forms. So we start with the subtopic, how do we create background colors for our web pages. Now there are 3 different ways in which you can provide the background color for your, or background images for your website. You have to use BG color attribute in the body tag of an HTML page in order to provide the background color. So if I write BG color in the body tag and I put its value as yellow, simple color name, then the browser would immediately understand that it has to provide the background color as yellow for this particular web page. Similarly, I can put any other value, green, blue, red, etc. The main thing is the attribute BG color has to be used in the body tag for this purpose. Then if I want my text in that page to be in white, with white ink, then I can use an attribute in the body tag as text and I keep its value as white. Similarly, if I want my hyperlinks on that page to be in a different color, say in blue color, then there is an attribute link. I can use this attribute link and keep its value as such to provide a particular color for all those links which are appearing on that web page. There is another way, the second way to provide background colors to your web pages, and that is where you use a 6-digit hexadecimal code starting with the sign number, with the hash sign. This hexadecimal code is also called the RGB values, or red, green, blue values. You choose values for this code from the range 0 to 9 and from characters A to F. The first 2 places in this code, they are reserved for red color, and you pick the values from 0 to 9 and A to F to fill in these 2 spaces for red color. Then the middle 2 places, they are for green, and you choose different values from the prescribed range for this green color. Then comes the blue. The last 2 places, they are for blue color. Similarly, for blue color also, you pick up certain values from the range and you fill these 2 places for blue accordingly. Assuming I want a full green background, then how should I write this hexadecimal code? Can you tell me? Simple. After the hash sign, there should come 2 zeros at the first 2 places, which means that red is 0, no red at all. We put it minimum, we fix it 0. Then for the middle two places reserved for green, we maximize. We put two Fs. That means pure green. And for the last two places reserved for blue, again we insert two zeros, means we minimize blue also. So that would generate a pure green background color for our web page. We use the BG color attribute and we can use this hexadecimal code to provide this particular background for our website. So in case I want a very different shade of color, very unique shade of color for that matter, what I can do is I can play with these digits, with these characters, and I can allocate certain characters for these different prescribed places. For example, I want some intensity of red to be blended with green. So in this way, I can blend some red color into pure green color, which was represented by two Fs in the two middle places. Similarly, if I also intend to combine some blue color, add some blue color also to get a different unique shade of color, then using the last two places reserved for blue, I can put some values, say A and C for that matter. And that would then accordingly add some intensity of blue also in the pure green along with the red. So this is how, using the hexadecimal code in this fashion, I can add different background colors. I can provide different background colors for my web pages. Next, if I want to apply some image in the background of my web page, what is the syntax for that? How do I do that? For that purpose, again, we use the body tag. In body tag now, we use the attribute background. Instead of BG color now, we are using the attribute background, and we put its value as the name of that image file which we want to be displayed in the background of the web page. So if I want an image which is, say, some tiled background image, I would put its file name as value of the attribute background, and accordingly in the background that image would be then displayed or shown. You can see the slide before you now. As you can see, there is pure yellow background. I have played with the BG color attribute, keeping its value as yellow, and I have shown the text in red color, and I wanted to show the link, the virtual university hyperlink, in blue. So that was possible with the help of the code which is being shown to you in the slide. As you can see in the slide, in the body tag, I have used BG color attribute, then I keep its value as yellow, I keep text as red, and then link as blue. I use a heading computer science using the H1 tag, and then I write welcome to anchor tag, hyperreference the value as a URL. Then I write virtual university, anchor tag closed in Pakistan, body closed, HTML closed. And accordingly, as you just saw, that in the pure yellow background, there would be certain text in red color, and the hyperlinks on that web page, they would be in blue color. Next, I want to talk to you about meta information or meta tag. Remember, meta information or meta tag is placed within the head tag before the body tag. So we use basically two tags to denote the meta information. One is the title tag. Title tag, as you are familiar with, is that information which appears in the blue bar at the top of the browser window. It is as such not part of our web page. On the other hand, by using meta tag within the head tag, we can provide certain useful information about our website to the search engines. So main point that you need to register is that meta information is the information of information. It is the information about our website, and this information is then, with the help of meta tag, utilized by the search engines to locate our website on the internet. As a good coder, as a good designer of your HTML page, you should provide the meta tag, which would contain the meta information, the key information about the theme of your website, and then the search engines using this information would be able to trace your website. I can show you the slide that demonstrates, that shows that how the meta tag can be applied. You see, within the head tag, I have used a title tag, introduction to e-commerce. This is the information that would be portrayed on the blue bar. Then I have used the meta tag. Meta tag has got no corresponding closing tag. It has got certain attributes. Then I have shown name attribute. Name equals description. Then another attribute, content. And as its value, I have picked up a sentence which explains the main theme of my website. That sentence is, e-commerce is a newly emerging field that uses internet as a medium of communication. Thereafter, I use another form of meta tag. Here, the name attribute has value as keyword, and the content attribute has value certain keywords which have been used in my web page. These keywords may be e-commerce, internet, medium, communication. So you can see that these keywords, they are separated through commas. So in this way, by using these two different forms of meta tag, I can supply the key, the useful information about my website to search engines, and then search engines can use this information to trace, to locate my website. If you do not use meta tag, still your website can be designed, it can be registered. But in order to locate your website through search engines, it should be such that you provide the meta tag. Again, I should point out that you can use just one form of meta tag, just the description type, give the key sentence of your website, some key portion of your website, total sentences. Another form of your meta tag can be where you can just use the keywords, comma separated keywords. This is also possible that we use both these types of meta information, that is the description type and the keyword type, in order to supply the useful information to the search engines. After that, we want to discuss as to how we can create tables in HTML. Tables primarily, they are used to supply information, the text information, in a systematic manner, in a logical manner, by dividing that information in certain sections. Also, tables can be used to create, to provide the layout of our web page. These are the two main purposes why we use tables. Tables try to accommodate each and every text information that is contained in them. So therefore, the size of the cell of a table would automatically be adjusted, would automatically be expanded depending upon the length of text that is written in that cell. It is the inherent property of a table that it tries to accommodate the text which is written in the cell of a table. Accordingly, it adjusts its size. Then the information that can be contained in the body tag, like hyperlinks, images, lists, headings, etc. All that information can also be contained in the table. All that formatted text, those images, information, that can also be enclosed in the table. Tables are created row by row. First of all, you will have to create a row of the table, and then within that row you create columns, or you create cells, in other words. This is how you create your table. The basic tags which are used to create table, first of all, within the body tag, you will start with a table tag. You will write the keyword table in the angular brackets to start with. Table tag has got its corresponding closing tag. Within this pair of table tags, you will use two tags, TR tag or table row tag, and within the table row tag, you will use to create cells or columns TD or table data tags. These are therefore three main tags: table tag, TR tag, and T tag, which are used to create tables. We can also put a caption to our table. Caption is that basic information which describes the theme of our table, that this table relates to this particular purpose. Then, in order to provide this caption, there is a tag, caption tag, and within the starting and closing caption tag, the information you enter, that information is displayed as caption of the table. Sometimes instead of using the TD tag, in its place you can use TH tag, table heading tag. What TH tag does for us? The only difference between TH and TD is that TH provides the text information in a bold format, somewhat in a heading format. So wherever in a table cell we want to show some information in bold in some heading format, instead of TD we use TH tag. In the slide before you, you can see a very basic 2-row, 2-column table. On the left side you can see the code, on the right the result of that code. We start with the HTML tag, then body tag, and then we use the table tag. You can notice that I have used an attribute of the table tag, border, and I have kept its value as 1. If I do not use this attribute border here, then that would mean that my table although would be created, but no boundaries of that table would be displayed. Therefore, in order to get the boundaries of my table displayed, it is imperative that I use the border attribute and put some value of that attribute border. Then we come to the TR tag. Remember, in order to create the first row, we need to have a TR tag. So you may notice that I start with a TR tag to create the first row, and then before closing this TR, I use two TD tags to create two cells in this first row. In the first TD, I write the text cell 1. In the second TD, I write the word cell 2. And then I create my second row by applying the second TR tag. Within this second TR, again, I want to create two cells. Therefore, I use two TDs again, two TD tags. And in these two TD tags, I write cell 3 and cell 4 respectively. Thereafter, I close the second TR, and then I close the table tag, close the body tag, close the HTML tag, and the result is, as you can see in the slide before you, on the right corner of the slide, there is a 2-column, 2-row, 2-column table. Cell 1, cell 2, cell 3, and cell 4, they are printed on each cell accordingly. Now I want to discuss with you two very important attributes of TD tag. They are call span and row span. Call span means that the number of columns through which we want a cell to stretch or be extended. Similarly, row span means the number of rows through which we want a particular cell to span or be stretched. I would show you an example. In the slide before you, you can see that there is a table tag, border 1, then there is the first TR. In the first TD, the only TD I've used in this TR, I have used the attribute call span, keeping its value 2, and I have written the word cell1, then I close the TD tag, and then I close the first TR. Accordingly, the text cell1, it would be written in a cell which would be stretched or extended up to 2 cells of the second row. The second row is created through the second TR, and then you can see that in this second TR I have used 2 TD tags. In the first TD I have got written word cell2, in the second TD I have written cell3, and in this way I form 2 cells within the second row. And the main thing is that your cell in the first row, it is stretched up to 2 columns because of the attribute call span. The next example is that of row span, as you can see in the slide before you. Now try coding that. I give you a hint that in this example the attribute row span would be used, and your cell 1 would be stretched up to 2 rows. So I would like you to try yourself and do the coding for this particular sample. Let's see a few more examples on call span and row span. The slide before you shows that there are 2 rows, and in the first cell of the first row we have used call span attribute, and the second cell of the first row, there we do not use any call span, so it is normal. Then the second row, there are 3 TDs and we have created 3 cells, first column, second column, third column. I show you the code. You can see in this example that after the body tag we have used the table tag, and then we keep border equal 1 because we want these boundaries of the table to be displayed. They would not be displayed if we keep the border value 0 or we do not use the border attribute at all. Then the caption tag, I have given the caption spanning the text. Afterwards the TR tag, and then the TD tag, the first TD tag, you can see that in this TD call span is equal to 2, which means that this cell would be stretched up to 2 columns. And I have got written the line, this line is extended to 2 columns. Then the second TD which does not span, then the first TR closed. To create the second row I use another TR, in that I use 3 TD tags. In the first TD I write first column, second TD I write second column, in the third TD I write the text third column. No call span is used, and you have seen the result before you as I showed you in the slide earlier. By default this table is left aligned, but I tell you there is an attribute of the table tag, the align attribute, keeping its value as center. We can put this table in the center of the window screen. There are other ways of doing the same thing. You should be knowing that. Can you tell me what are those other tricks we can play? Yes. One is that we use center tag. Remember I told you using the center tag before the table tag, we can fix this table in the center of the window screen. Similarly, we can also do the same using the paragraph tag. In paragraph tag, using the align attribute and using its value as center, we can also fix this table in the center. We use this paragraph tag, of course, before the start of the table tag. Next, I want to talk about the row span. We can show you an example of row span. In the slide before you, you can see that the first cell of the first row, it is stretched up to 2 rows. And then the second TD, it is not stretched. Then there is the second row which has got only one cell in which is written the words second row. Then the second row which has got 2 cells, in the first cell it is written this does not, and in the second cell it is written as third row. What is the code behind this? You can see here I have used row span in the first cell of the first row, and I have kept its value as 2. So I start from the first TR tag, then TD tag. In the first TD tag, I have used row span equals 2. I have written the line. This line is stretched to 2 rows. Then this first TD closed. The second TD is required. I write the words first row in that second TD. Thereafter, I close the first TR. Then in the second TR, I have to create a second row. In the second TR, I only use one TD tag. Okay, I need to have just one cell in which I write the words second row. And then I close this second TD, I close this second TR, and then I start with the third row by writing the third TR. And in that TR, I use 2 TDs, 2 cells. First TD, I write this does not. In the second, I write the words third row, and then I close this third TR, I close the table tag, and then I close the body tag, then HTML tag, and you have already seen the result of this code. Then I want to discuss with you some important attributes of table tag. You are already familiar with the border attribute. I've already explained that using that you can get the boundaries of the table displayed. We also have align attribute, whereby we can align the position of the table. We can align it on the left side or center or right, as the case may be. Then there is an attribute called cell padding. Cell padding attribute indicates the distance between the contents of a cell from the boundaries of that cell. So in other words, it is the space which is kept between the contents and the boundaries that enclose that content. By default, its value is 1 or 2 pixels, but we can keep its value different. We can fix its value 5, 7, as the case may be. Then there is another attribute which is cell spacing. Cell spacing attribute is used to adjust, to create space between different cells of the table. By default, again, its value is 1 or 2 pixels, but we can adjust this value. We can keep this value differently. Then comes the BG color attribute. You remember in the body tag, we use this attribute BG color to provide the background color of the web page. Similarly, for a table specifically, we can have a different background color using this BG color attribute, and similarly we provide the name of that color as value to this BG color attribute. We can also provide the hexadecimal code as value for the BG color attribute. Moreover, we can also use the background attribute in the table tag wherever we want an image file to be shown in the background of the table. So these are some of the attributes which are commonly used for table tag, but I forgot to tell you there are two very important attributes in the table tag. One is the width attribute and the other height attribute. We use width attribute to specify the width up to which we want our table to be extended or be shown. So where I use width attribute, I keep its value 75%. That means that I want my table to be of a size which would extend to 75% of my total window screen. Similarly, in height attribute, I can keep the value in terms of percentage, say 100%. That would mean that I want my table to be displayed throughout the browser screen, 100% height of the screen. So in this way, I can adjust the size of my table. Let me point out that we can use the BG color and background attributes in relation to TR and TD tags individually as well. Then I want to talk about the attributes of the TD tag. There are three important attributes that I would like to talk about. I have already mentioned about call span and row span. Besides, we have a width attribute in relation to TD tag. So if I use this width attribute, I keep its value, say 50%, that would indicate, that would tell to the browser that the browser should display this particular cell. The size of this cell, in fact, should be such that it is up to 50% of the total width of the table. So up to 50% of the total width of the table, this particular cell would be extended in terms of its width. If I keep the value as the value of the attribute width as 50%. Then align attribute. If I want my content to be written at the left side of the cell, then the value would be of the align attribute would be left. If I want my contents in the cell to be aligned centrally, then I can keep the value of this align attribute as center or middle. Similarly, if I want my contents to be aligned rightwards, towards the right edge of the cell, I can keep the value of align attribute as right. In the same fashion, there is another attribute, v-align, that can be used for TD tag. v-align has three possible values. One is top, then middle, and then bottom. In fact, it vertically aligns the content within the cell. By default, the value of v-align attribute is center or middle, but I can adjust it. I can keep it top or bottom as the case may be. Then there is an example that I think it should be useful for you to have a look at. In fact, I want to tell you that we can use the table concept to create margins, to set up margins on our web page. The example before you, the slide before you, would tell you precisely how we do that. You see, in this particular slide before you, there is a table. It has got just one row, and in this one row table, there are just two cells. The left cell, it has in its background an image, and on the right cell, there is the content, the text we want to insert in this web page. How do we create this effect? I would show you the code behind this result. As you can see, we start with the body tag, and I have used a few attributes here: left margin, top margin, margin width, margin height. I have kept the value of all these attributes as 0 because I want my table to start exactly from the top of the browser screen. Therefore, I keep all these margins as 0. Then comes the table tag. Here you can see that I have used the height attribute of table and I have kept its value as 100%, which means that I want my table to be stretched, to be extended throughout the browser screen, throughout the window. Then I use the tr tag, the sole tr tag that I will use here. In it, I would use two td tags. In the first td, as you can see, I use the background attribute and I keep its value as image2.gif. Image2.gif, in fact, is that file name, is that image which I want to appear in this particular cell, in this particular column. I have kept the value of this cell. I have kept the width of this cell as 100, and then I use a code ampersand NBSP semicolon. This is the code in HTML which represents a blank space, and then I close the td tag. There is a question you may ask, what is this number 100 here? I have used width equal 100. This 100, in fact, specifies, indicates pixels. In other words, I am telling the browser that for this particular cell, the width should be 100 pixels. What is a pixel? Our computer screens, they are composed of small points, which are called pixels. Typically, a screen is horizontally divided into 800 columns and vertically divided into 600 rows. When we want to define, when we want to locate a point on the screen called pixel, we specify the column on which this point exists, and then we specify the row on which this point is available. So in order to describe, locate a pixel, we give its column number and then its row number, and that would then mark the pixel, that would mark that point. Besides giving space measurement in terms of percentages, we can also give these space measurements in terms of pixels. So exactly, therefore, you saw that we have specified the width of this cell in terms of pixels by supplying the value 100. So up to 100 pixels, this cell would be width-wise stretched by the browser. Then in the second column, the second TD, I use the attribute v-align, as I just explained you earlier, and I have kept its value as top. I told you by default the value of v-align is middle or center. Here deliberately I have kept its value top. And then in this second TD I write a sentence. This section contains the contents of your web page. I close the second TD thereafter. I close the only tr used here, and then close table, close body, close HTML, and let's then go back to the result. You see, there are in fact two sections, two cells created. I have created a layout, in fact, a division of my web page. On the left end, there is some background image appearing. On the right end, I can insert, I can provide certain content. Because of the background attribute in the first TD, I can see the image, the particular image I have used here appearing in the background, and for the second TD, since I had used no background image, so it is in the plain white. Now, the sentence appears at the top of the second cell. This is because of the attribute vAlign, whose value I had kept as top. You see, this table is extended throughout the window screen height-wise, because I had in the table tag kept the value of the height attribute as 100%. So this is how we can use the table concept in order to create margins of our web pages. Okay, our next main topic is to understand how we create web forms using HTML. The first question is, what is a web form, or simply a form? A form is that web page which is developed, which is created to receive the comments, the input, the information from the users. So you may have seen there are certain web pages, websites on which there are certain rectangles, and you are asked to type in, to key in certain information in those rectangles. These rectangles, they are called text boxes. Similarly, on certain websites, you may find there is a submit button, there is maybe a reset button, add button, etc. Similarly, on certain sites, there can be lists. You use these lists to select certain options. Then radio boxes and check boxes, they all can be used in one form or the other to receive input, to receive information from the users. So all such web pages through which we can receive the information from our users, we call those web pages as web forms. And in our lecture today and subsequently, we shall see as to how we can develop different types of web forms. I give you a very common example. You can see we are creating a submit button. So the syntax for that is that first of all, in the body tag, we use a form tag. In the slide before you, you can see that there is a very simple web form on which there is just one button, and on that button, the word send is written. At the top, there is a sentence, an example of submit button. How do we create this very simple page? As you can see in the code, after the body tag, I have a heading tag and I write an example of submit button. Then I have to use the tag form. It has got its corresponding closing tag. You can see that. Now, in the form tag, I use a very important attribute, action. So through this action attribute, in fact, I specify as value that address where I want this information through the form to be submitted. Right? I can use the value of this action attribute in terms of a URL. Say there is a URL to which I want this information to be shipped. So I use the action attribute and keep its value that URL. Simultaneously, I also have to use another attribute, method, in the form tag, and I keep the method attribute value as post. You have to keep that as it is. Method would always be here as post. Then before closing the form tag, I have to use another tag, and this is input tag. Right? In the input tag, I would use the attribute type, and the value of the type attribute here would be the keyword submit. That would in fact create a submit button for us. And then I have used another attribute in the example for the input tag. That attribute is value. And I have kept the value of this attribute value as send. In fact, through value attribute, I can provide a label on that button. The button would perform the function of submit, but because of the value attribute, its label would be whatever is presented as value of the attribute value, which is send here. After that, I close the form tag, then the body tag, and then the HTML tag, and the result you have already seen. It results into the creation of a small submit button on which the label is send. When we press this submit button, the information placed in the form of text boxes, say, all that information contained in the text boxes, by clicking the submit button, is transported to the address whose URL or whose address has been given in the action attribute. Okay. Then there is another button, reset button. Similarly, we can create reset button. The syntax says that after the form tag, we use the input tag, and in type attribute, we keep the value as reset. And then we can also use, for label purposes, the value attribute in this case also, and we can supply a different label to the reset button. What does the reset button do for us? A reset button simply would clear all the information which a user would provide in the text boxes in the form of radio buttons or check boxes, etc. It would clear the screen before the user once again, so that he can again put in his values. By default, if you do not use the value attribute, by default the browser labels on the submit button the word submit, and on the reset button, by default, the browser labels the word reset. Then we come to the other very important type of web form, that is the text boxes and text areas. I told you we use text boxes, we use these rectangles called text boxes, where we want the users to provide some input through their keyboard. We want the users to type in some information, say their name, their address, their email address, etc. All this information is received through the text boxes. To create a text box, again you use the form tag, and then after that you use the input tag. In the input tag now, the type attribute holds the value as text. You keep the type attribute's value now as text, and that would create a text box for you. There is another attribute which is used in the input tag in case of text boxes, and that is the name attribute. This name, in fact, is the field name. This information which you enter as value of the name attribute is for the server side. Therefore, whenever you use the name attribute and you choose a particular field value, that information would be delivered to the server side, and the server side can then respond back to you, can communicate with you with reference to that value which you had inserted as value of the name attribute. If I have created a text box for entering the email address, then this name attribute logically should have its value as email. And when the server would respond to me, it would respond that, well, the email field was used, so it would react to me, it would interact with me with reference to that unique field name. Remember that these field names, they are otherwise not needed actually to create text boxes. You can create your text boxes without referring to these field names using name attribute. However, wherever you want to play with the server side, you should provide the name attribute and you should have its value, a logical value, which information would be used by the server. Then text areas. Text areas are those large rectangles which are used to receive some larger information. For instance, I want my user to provide a detailed information on certain subject. For that, it would be more suitable that I have created a text area, a large rectangle, wherein I am asking my user to print, to write his comments or his answer. The syntax is that to create a text area, a large rectangle, you use the tag text area tag. It has got a corresponding closing text area tag with the backslash. And you can use two attributes to determine the size of this large rectangle or box. These attributes are calls and rows. Right? So if I use calls, I keep its value 10, and I also use rows and I keep its value 60. That would tell the user that please create a rectangle, a box for me of the size that can contain 10 characters vertically, row-wise, and 60 characters horizontally, column-wise. The size of that box should be such. Now I want to show an example here that would illustrate the concept and tell you the syntax also. You can see in the slide before you, there are in fact two text boxes, then there is one text area, and then there are two buttons. One is submit button, on which label is I know. The other button is the reset button, which has got the same label reset on it. You know the specific functions of these two buttons now. And the text starts with a heading, today's burning question. And then you are asked to key in your first name in the first text box. In the second subsequent text box, you are required to provide your last name. And then a question as today's burning question, how to make Pakistan a developed country. You see, there is then a question, today's burning question, how to make Pakistan a developed country. This in fact is a burning question for all of us because we want our country to prosper, we want to bring prosperity, we want to become a respected nation in the world, and for that, all of us have to work hard, we have to be sincere, honest. So in case we want to ask our users to supply their answers to this question, we can provide a text area, a bigger rectangle for the answer purposes using the text area tag. And now you can see the code which runs behind this result. You see, I start from the form tag, form action equal, there is a URL, an ASP file to which we want this information to be supplied, method post. Then I write first name, colon, this is text information that would appear in front of the text box as it is. Then to create the first text box, I write input type text name first, then paragraph tag providing line break, line space, then last name, colon, which creates the second text box where last name of the user has to appear. Then again a paragraph tag providing a line break, line space, and then I write today's, because of italic tag, the burning question, these words, they would be presented in italic. And then because of the bold tag, how to make Pakistan a developed country, that would appear in bold. Then after a paragraph tag, I write, please enter your answer in the text area below. a break tag which would provide a line break, and after that there is the text area tag, name equal answer. You should recall that this name means the field name here. This information is for the server side. Then using rows attribute, I create row wise the size of this text area. Calls equal 60, that would determine column wise the size of this rectangle. And then I close text area tag, again a paragraph tag, to create the two buttons submit and reset. Again I use two input tags, input type submit, value I know, input type reset, form closed, body closed, HTML closed, and you have just seen the result that it would create two text boxes and a bigger text area for answer purposes. So dear students, in our today's lecture, we have tried to understand how we can create tables, what are the various tags, what are the various attributes for that, and then we have also started our other topic, that is how to create forms and what are the various types of forms, what is the syntax available for that. Inshallah, in the subsequent lecture, we'll continue from this point onward. Until then, Allah Hafiz.